Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the very first BSI Young Professionals Exchange. Firstly, I'd like to say a big thank you to all of you in the room today for taking the time out of your week to be with us this evening. Young professionals are crucial to standards development, and it's so fantastic to see so many of you here in the room, and we're looking forward to connecting with you and showing you what the world of standards has to offer. I encourage you all to pop by the BYP exhibitor stand, if you haven't done so already, to learn more about the fantastic work they are doing to support Black young talent. Before we dive into what will be a great session, there's a few bits of housekeeping. The nearest toilets are located just at the Frobisher Hub along the corridor as you exit this space. We also have a quiet room on this level, so please do let one of the BSI team know if you require some time out of the event and we can direct you to this space. Toilets are located downstairs on the third floor opposite the registration desk, just outside the garden room. In the event of a fire, Barbican staff will direct you out of the building to the nearest evacuation point, remain with you and advise you when it's safe to return. Please do not return to the building unless you have been given the all clear. Now that's out the way, I'd like to talk a minute or two about the intentions behind this event and what we hope you will take from it. Firstly, we are here to celebrate the enormous contributions young professionals are already making to standards development. Young professionals are heavily involved in the standards making process across a broad range of sectors, and they are playing a huge role in improving processes, systems and products, and helping us strive towards our shared goal of a fairer future for all. This evening event marks the beginning of our efforts to foster a wider community of standards makers. So it's great to see so many new faces in the room, and hopefully we'll have you part of the journey, and who knows, this may become the start of your standards journey. We're also looking to develop a young professionals network. In creating this community, our aim is to enhance amongst YPs, young professionals, knowledge of, interest and involvement in standards making, whilst also highlighting the variety of personal and career development opportunities which come with getting involved. We really do hope you join us on this journey. We are serious when we talk about our goal of creating a community of young professionals, and to this end, we have created the Young Professionals Network. Members of the network receive key updates from BSI, and there's opportunities to engage in various activities, events, and who knows, you could maybe join the panel like today, one day. If that sounds like something you're interested in, I'd encourage you to scan the QR code, which is on your badge here. It just takes a few minutes to fill out the form, and by joining that network, you'll receive all of these updates. So please do take some time to do that now or later on today. A big thank you of those in the room that have already joined the community, and I know many of you have joined recently, so it's great to see those numbers coming up. I'd just like to reflect a little on the standard speed dating sessions that you've all participated in just now. I hope you enjoyed them. It was a very informal, interactive format. We know that standards can sometimes be a little bit daunting, so hopefully that format helped to make it a little bit more fun. And we hope you were able to get a bit more of a sense of some of the areas that standards impact. Who knew standards covered such a range of areas? We are really pleased that tonight's event is being attended by professionals from different sectors, some already involved and some are just starting out. I'd like to also just take some time to introduce our partner for this event, BYP Network, the Black Young Professionals Network. We've been working with the BYP network for a few years now to increase diversity inclusion within standards making, and BYP helps support Black young talent to thousands, tens of thousands of young professionals in the UK, globally as well. So we've got Kike that will be joining the panel a little bit later, but I'd also like to take the time just to give a round of applause to BYP for being our partner, and just give us a little wave if you're in the room. The focus on the Young Professionals Exchange, as I've said, is trying to increase young professionals getting involved in standards, but also raising awareness of the career benefits and the opportunities there are to getting involved. This evening's panel discussion will delve deeper into these two key pillars of BSI's Young Professionals engagement.
I am delighted to welcome to the stage my wonderful panellists for this evening's conversation. So I would like to welcome Kike, who is founder and CEO of the BYP Network. Also Lockie, who is a lead standards development manager here at BSI. And finally, Franco, please join us on the stage, who is a creative futurist and PhD researcher at Bristol's Robotics Laboratory. Also, to all my speakers and panelists, please do help yourself to some water before we get started, because I have a question for you all. So, how many of you in this room have heard of BSI, have worked with standards in your day-to-day, or are part of the YP program or committees? Let's see a show of hands so we can get some context for our conversation. Amazing. Oh, this is really good to see. Okay. So that is a good starting point for our panelists today. So to get things started, I wanted to give our panelists an opportunity just to introduce themselves briefly and talk about their career to date. So, Kike, can I start with you, please?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. So, as mentioned, my name is Kike Onuminde-Agoro, founder and CEO of BYP Network. So, we are partnering with BSI with this event today, and we have been partners with them for a few years now. So BYP Network started from my own journey. So I grew up in East London, single-parent household. I did very well academically as well in the state school. So A stars at GCSE and A's at A levels. So I did further maths and maths. I'll throw it out there. But I hated science. So I was like, oh God, I could not stand science. But yeah, I did very well academically. But I also did very well as an athlete. So I represented Great Britain in javelin. So I was kind of seen as a rising star in my local area. I got a lot of opportunities, so internships, scholarships, bursaries, like you name it. But I noticed that I would be the only one that looked like me. And that was actually a problem for me. I just felt like I didn't belong. I also questioned what was the standard to actually get into kind of investment banks or to get a job opportunity. So if I'm a black person and I have all these A stars and I'm an international athlete, and that's the standard for me to be the only one in the room, it didn't make any sense to me. And that was partly why I started BYP Network. It was this view that actually there's a lot of talented black professionals, and for some reason the standard is wrong. They're not letting us have seats at the table. They're not, letting us in the rooms where we should be because we are talented enough. So BYP, it's been around now for 8 years. We have a global community of over about 150,000 members. We have 25 chapters around the world, so America, Dubai, Nigeria as well. And we're all about working with organizations to help them attract, retain, and engage black talent. But the community is at the heart and at the center of BYP. So we always tell partners it's a privilege for them to work with us. That's the key, because they get access to this incredible talent pool. And not just that, the talent pool get to network with one another. And one of our key things is about leaving your titles at the door. So whether you're a managing director or an intern, it doesn't matter. We're all here to network, learn, and advance our careers. So yeah, that's BYP Network. And we've achieved a lot as a company. I personally am a Forbes 30 under 30 as well. And yeah, we're still going, and there's a lot of great things to come from us. Thank you.
Thank you, Kike. Lockie, over to you for your introduction.
Thanks so much, Emma. And thanks, Emma and Sarah, for having me along and for organising today. I think I've said it to everyone I've seen already, but it's such a cool venue to have the event in, so I'm very happy to be here with everyone. So I'm Lockie Humphreys, and as Emma said, I'm Lead Standards Development Manager at BSI. So for those of you that are already on a committee, and I think a lot of you are, I'm essentially a committee manager, so I'm working, for those of you that don't know how the systems work, I work with committees to develop and maintain and write the standards documents. So how did I come to be here? I actually have a background in publishing. So my career started in Australia, where I'm from, and we have a very different high school system to you guys, so I won't talk about that. But at uni, I studied things like English and history and Japanese, so quite language-based disciplines, and then I went straight into a Masters of Publishing. I got my first job in Australia, and I was there for 4 years, which was great. I loved that job. I was working on magazines and books, so doing project management and writing and commissioning and stakeholder engagement, things that I eventually come to use at BSI as well. But I loved the job, but I had aspirations to move overseas. So when I was 25, I quit the job and I moved here to London. And I do just want to digress very briefly there, because there's lots of YPs in the room, and part of this panel is about career progression So this is kind of a general point, but I do just want to highlight something called youth mobility visa schemes. So for anyone in the room that has aspirations to move abroad, do go and have a look at them and see what's available to you, because they're available for lots of different countries. And they're generally up to the age of 30 or 35. So if you have interest in getting international work experience, that's one really good way to do it. But yes, I arrived in London. I got another job in publishing, developing manuscripts for business books. And that was the first time standards actually came into my orbit. We worked on a lot of HR management books at that company, and there are a lot of HR management standards, and there are books about HR management standards. So I was there for a couple of years, and then eventually I ended up getting a job at BSI, just on a 6-month contract initially. So I took up a maternity cover and someone who was on secondment, and I spent the first couple of years at BSI working kind of on lots of different committees, doing lots of sectors, meeting lots of different people. And I've been at BSI for 5 years now, and mainly now and for the last couple of years, I work just in the one subject area, which is occupational health and safety management, which has been really good to work with people just from that sector and start to really meet people in that industry. And in the last couple of years, we've been able to travel internationally to do some of our development. So I was in Morocco earlier this year for a conference, and we've just had quite a big international meeting in El Salvador in Central America. And just quickly, just for context, for those of you who went and did the speed dating just before this session, we have a couple of OH&S people here. So Dr. Maria Tomlinson was doing one of the sessions working on our menopause and menstrual health standard, which is a national standard at the moment, but we're currently turning it into an international standard, which is really, really exciting. And Peter Kelly as well, who has gone, but he's coming back later. So if you didn't get a chance to talk to him, do talk to him. He does lots of work around mental health and safety at work. And he's also convening a new panel for us for some impactful work and a really important subject, suicide prevention, intervention, and support in organisations. So that will probably be coming out in 2025, 2026, we'll see. But yeah, lots of interesting stuff happening in OH&S.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Lockie. And Franco, over to you for your introductions.
Hi, everyone. Firstly, I just wanted to say I'm very excited to be a young professional on stage today, seeing so many young professionals interested in and involved in standards. I think that's, I think that's something to really be proud of. In terms of myself, my name is Franco Lavia. My pronouns are they, them. And I'm actually originally from South Africa, although now I live in the UK, where I'm doing a PhD at the Bristol Robotics Lab, where I research how to detect life on other planets using swarms of robots, kind of inspired by nature. Outside of academia, I'm actually also a standards maker at the British Standards Institution, where I have worked on what hopefully will be the world's first standard on sustainability in robotics, because robotics is obviously something I'm heavily involved in, and it's going to have such a big impact on our day-to-day lives, and this standard is key to making robots work for our environment and also preventing robots becoming kind of like robot litter in a way. And so that's my kind of involvement in standards. And outside of standards, I actually am an activist and artist. So I've been heavily involved in grassroots efforts, whether it's campaigning for humanitarian aid relief in Ukraine, or campaigning for furthering inclusion of Africa in the international space sector, being from South Africa myself. That's actually what led me to founding Space Pride, which is an international non-profit dedicated to bringing together the queer community in the international space sector. And it's kind of all summed up by our slogan, which is, we are all made of stardust, which I saw was in one of my big quotes, which is fundamentally we're all connected and made of the same thing, and we should celebrate those unique things which make us different. There's been a few hundred astronauts now that have been to space, but there's only been a handful that are known to be queer, and none of them have actively come out while serving as an astronaut. Oh, is my mic frozen? Oh, okay.
no.
Thank you so much.
Oh.
Sorry about that. When did I get cut off?
Let's start the whole thing again.
Oh, God. So as I was saying, there's been over a few hundred astronauts in space, and only a handful are known to be queer. And there's never been an astronaut that has come out themselves while actively serving. And so that kind of shows the wider problems in the international space sector. And that's why it's great that we have an organization like Space Pride. And I was really inspired today about what Maggie said about speaking up. I saw a problem, and I've actually, talked to communities, talked to people, gathered support, and started to make a difference. It led to me leading a project where we created a fashion tech piece celebrating the queer community in the international space sector. We had a photo shoot in the London Science Museum. We exhibited it in Milan too, at the world's largest space conference, the International Astronautical Congress. And so I'd strongly encourage and echo what Maggie had said earlier. Use your voices, and you'd be surprised about the positive impact you can have.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Franco. And I'm glad everybody can hear Franco now, which is wonderful. So thank you for the kind of your career histories, and I think this is a wonderful starting point for the conversation that we will now have. So, Kike, I would love to come back to you. So standards are created through a consensus-based process, as many of us know in this room, with various individuals from a range of backgrounds coming together to help shape what good looks like. We know this environment is also beneficial for the workplace. So can you talk a little bit more about the importance of diverse, multi-stakeholder environments and some of the organizational benefits as well?
Yeah, sure. So when I first saw this question, I didn't know what it meant. I was like, what? But then I realized it's basically diversity and inclusion across multiple people, right? Multiple levels. Like when I think about BYP Network, for example, we work with allies, we work with corporate partners, and also within BYP Network, I know we've got Young Professionals Network, but actually it's from age 18 all the way up to 45 plus. So we have to engage with junior talent, maybe interns, students, right through to C-suite level. And all of them have different needs and different requirements. And it was for us to understand, like, what are those needs and what is missing, especially in the world of work. And then at the same time, with our partners, we work across all industries, which is so important because every single industry has a problem when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we wanted to really focus on that. We didn't want to kind of be just one industry specific. And that was actually still part of my journey because some of the programs I had joined when I was younger were quite focused on finance. I noticed, all the opportunities as someone who studied economics was just investment banks. And I did not know any other route or any other career routes. So part of the focus with BYP is that we want to make sure it's open everywhere. So no matter what your background is, we can find out, what are the great careers for you guys to join, and they can essentially market it to you. But if we didn't really understand our own community, how would they understand it as well? And that was part of, our push and understanding of, the black community, black professional community, whatever, are not a monolith. And so how do we engage everyone at their different levels and their different, standards in order to get them, new opportunities? And I think also when it comes to organizations, one thing we found from all the years we've been working with, so many different partners, is that it starts at the top, literally the very top, that senior leadership team. If the senior leadership team don't care, it's not on the agenda, it's not of interest, no change will happen internally in the organization. And we've seen that even, let's say we have a call with someone, they're super passionate, excited, but it's only them or a few around them and not from the top. It never goes anywhere. And actually they also end up leaving out of frustration. But the conversations that we have that okay, it's from that C-suite, or it's from, leadership team, move so much quicker and it's a lot more effortless. And then also the organization transforms a lot quicker. But still, it's important to talk to people at all different levels, regardless, because the reason it's on their agenda is because those in the organization are talking about it, right? They're hearing it from the different employee resource groups who are bringing it up to the forefront about things that can improve internally. They're hearing it in the exit interviews. They're seeing their retention levels. All this is talking to them directly, and these are different stakeholders, just different levels. And that's when they start to care, and it goes back to your voice mattering, right? You might think you're one of 10,000 in your workplace, but actually by maybe joining your employee resource group, leading it, you might find yourself on the committee that's directly with senior management, and that gets the ear of them. And so no one is like too small in an organization or externally of an organization. So that's why it's super important. And one thing we love as well as part of our day job is the conversations we get to have amongst so many different people. And even for us, one of our conversations led to us, not one of us, many of our conversations led to us creating a course called the Black Experience course. And that's specifically for allies. It's specifically for people that want to understand their Black colleagues, understand how to attract more and retain them as well, not understanding the differences. Like if you're the only Black person in the workplace, but you can feel that, but they're not understanding that, and so they can't really empathize with that. So when they're talking about things that may not relate to you, they're not understanding that you're uncomfortable. But the course that we created, which is 2 hours CPD accredited, is for them to be part of that course and then understand the experiences of their Black colleagues. And that's been across more than 20 of our partners. Thousands of allies have now watched that course or done that course. And that's that impact just from having the conversations with different stakeholders. So yeah, back to that element. It's very much about, DEI impacts everybody. I have a 2-year-old now, and I'm already getting her into the world of understanding the world as well. And I think that's what it's about, is having those conversations. So even if you're having a conversation with your parents, your grandparents, for example, just a quick one, I was speaking to someone who is in a multi-ethnic relationship, interracial relationship, and they were saying that their family was gay, but their grandparents were not, right? That's an impact. That's that multi-stakeholder, relationship. So for us, it's just about how do you disseminate across. And given how much the world is changing now, we have a Trump government starting soon. I think those conversations will actually be harder to have. I think even this is quite powerful because I'm feeling like, the world could change next year and it's harder to have these conversations. But it is about how do you have those conversations, no matter what level they are. And then that changes things internally and externally.
Thank you so much. And that point you made around kind of, the culture being set from the top is something that is, mirrored across sectors. And so I think that's really, really key. But everybody has a voice, and we encourage everybody to get involved and speak up and do what you can. So my next question comes over to Lockie. So Lockie, earlier this evening and already in our discussions, you mentioned, of course, the fact that you're a manager for one of the Committee on Occupational Health and Safety Management. And of course, our attendees all took part in the various standards topics during the standards speed dating sessions. So I'm really keen to get your perspective as a BSI committee manager. What are the key benefits of YPs getting involved in standards, and why is it so important to ensure that younger voices are being heard and playing a part in standards development?
Yeah, thanks, Emma. And I think, well, one, it's really important. I think that the answer is yes in the first instance. It's very important. And yeah, as I said, I've been at BSI for 5 years now, and I have worked with quite a lot of young professionals in that time. And I think there's probably two answers to the question. One is the benefit that it's bringing to the standards themselves and the standards making process. And then there's also a benefit, I think, to the young professional who's getting involved. So I think to talk about occupational health and safety again, it's quite a big international committee. It's about 500 individual people sitting on there from around the world, and then there's mirror committees in every country, including the UK. And our flagship standard is one called ISO 45001. It's what's called a management system standard for occupational health and safety management, and it's doesn't matter if you don't know what this means, but it's the kind of standard that you can get certified to. It's not necessarily a voluntary standard. It's the third most certified in the world, so it's quite a widely used standard, and it's what is called a horizontal topic. So it's not just for one sector. It's any organisation of any size who's using it to manage their occupational health and safety. So when it's being used in organisations, depending on the size, it could be a whole team from kind of leadership all the way down to entry level, a whole team on OH&S. It could be just one person implementing it as an add-on to their role. So I think it's really important to remember that when someone's looking at a standard, there are going to be people that are looking at it for the first time. And I was reminded of this when I went to an event recently with Jacobs Engineering, and I met someone who was part of a grad program. So they just got their first job, and it was a purely occupational health and safety role. And I thought, well, wow, like that person's going to have lots of things to do in their role, but one of them is picking up this standard 45001 for the first time and needing to understand what it's all about, what it's meant to do, what kind of outcomes they're meant to have from this standard. So it's really important to think about that viewpoint, I think, that someone is going to be looking at that for the first time with no idea what it means. And just to add to that point a little bit, and from my own experience, I think when you come into an organisation, an entry-level role, and as I did as an assistant, you kind of have, you have a lot of different tasks, you're working with lots of different teams, especially if you're in a small or a medium-sized organisation. You have quite a unique vantage point from the bottom up. I think if a process isn't working in the organisation, you're going to be probably the first person to see where it's falling down at the bottom, or if it's not quite getting the result that you need. So those are the kind of people that we really do need to sit on panels and on committees and tell us this doesn't really work in practice, or this section is really confusing, or it's not really fit for purpose anymore. So I think that's really, really important from the young perspective, a young professional perspective. And then for the young professional themselves, and I actually have an example of this. For the last couple of years, I've also been doing work on another big standard, ISO 9001 on quality management. Again, it's a really widely used standard. And we had a young professional join the committee, and she was great. And first of all, she provided us pretty much exactly that viewpoint that I just described. But for her, coming into the committee, she was in her first job. She'd been there for a couple of years, and it was in the construction industry. So she came into the committee and met all of these people who were working for big organisations or government, or they were individual consultants, or wherever they were working, but all of these people who were in some way involved in quality as a profession. And she's actually since moved on from that construction job and decided to pursue a career in audit and certification. And I think not everyone's going to kind of jump across to that kind of pathway and work in standards like that, but I think the opportunity to see some of those kind of adjacent moves or side steps is really helpful when you're in your first 10 to 15 years of your career, because it can be, when you're in your current role or even your second job, it's quite easy to see up and down the ladder, not as easy to see to the sides or what might be possible. So I think for young professionals, if you look at getting involved in a committee as like a very kind of specific networking opportunity and quite a unique networking opportunity, then I think it can be really helpful.
Thank you. In that, I was just going to draw out that point around, you're bringing together experts who work within one particular sector, and those are the people that you want to be talking to kind of build on your career. So that's an excellent benefit for everybody to join a committee. So Franco, I am coming to you next. So you founded Space Pride, which you talked about a little bit, but I would encourage everybody to take a look at this afterwards as well, because it's a really kind of inspiring and interesting foundation that you've set up. So, of course, this advocates for inclusion in the space sector, which we've touched on. But you mentioned the importance of diverse, multi-stakeholder environments, both in standards and in the workplace. And so, as a committee member yourself, can you share your thoughts on the importance of inclusion in standards development and why ensuring different voices are heard is essential?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you so much. So diverse voices are really key to making sure that people and communities are not left behind in the standards process. The standards process is a very important process because it actually guides governments, policymakers, organizations from all over the globe on various aspects of life. And so having those diverse voices, you can actually meet the needs that the community has, and you don't know what those needs are unless you talk to the communities, unless you're engaging with them. And for me, it like as a young professional, it's quite exciting to see more young professionals come into standards. Because one of the key things, especially if you look at areas like sustainability-related standards, many of the many of the committee members will not be around when the implementation of the standards actually takes place and the impact happens. So we need those younger voices. So I highly encourage people to get involved. And at the end of the day, diversity is all about sort of bringing your full self to it. So I strongly advise everyone to not be afraid to take that space in the room.
Franco. I actually have a follow-up question for you, Franco.
Amazing.
So as a YP standards maker, can you share with our audience today some of the top career benefits to getting involved in standards and some of the skills that you have developed along the way?
Yes, so I think the first thing is it's kind of exposed me to working with people who are far older and actually far more experienced. And that skill set has actually put me in good stead throughout the rest of my career. And I've now worked with people like astronauts, leaders in the space sector of all kinds, and that experience helped shape that. Because there's often that sort of fallacy that if someone's incredibly experienced or in their field or area, they're perfect, but at the end of the day, we're all imperfect human beings trying to do our best. So that gives me a lot of confidence when I think about that. And the other things that being a standards maker has helped me with is it's kind of uniquely positioned me in terms of my career, because not many people in academia, sort of my fellow PhD colleagues, they don't have a unique intersection of policy and research. And so that also means that I have a lot more sort of room to maneuver in terms of future career progression. And then the other thing is the soft skills, so kind of working within a committee, trying to sort of come to a consensus on something. It's really difficult, and especially when you have different perspectives or you don't agree. But the process of actually coming to that consensus, I found really eye-opening. And it also helped me in terms of expanding my network, because standards goes across all sectors. So I got to speak to many different people from different sectors, which has been a fantastic learning experience.
Action for everybody in the room today.
Yeah, I agree. I think the kind of main message here has been kind of look at your own story, your own life, things in your environment that you feel needs changing or could be better. I go back to thinking about even sports. They set standards for you to represent Great Britain or England, whatever that looks like. And sometimes it'd be like that standard's not fair. You'd literally hear people angry about the standard. And then they join the board or they join, whatever committee that looks like to be part of that change. So I think it's you looking in your local environment about the things that you're not happy with, and then what are your first steps to being involved in making that change. And all those small wins are big wins. They make a big difference. And it doesn't have to be anything, incredible, like join the space, join NASA or anything like that. But it could be literally your local council and you see that they never empty the bins, I don't know, and you want to join it to be like, take out those bins every week. But generally, like something that will keep you engaged and that you genuinely, are frustrated about, and then find a route in and just be part of that, literally.
Thank you. Lockie, over to you.
Thanks. I'm going to make mine quite standards development specific, actually. And it's kind of, my call to action is a bit contingent on being in a committee. So for everyone that's in a committee, great. If anyone that's not, joy. But I think, so Sarah has done a great job with the Young Professionals Program in kind of raising awareness of standards and engaging people to come to events like this and starting to get people involved, which is great. And it's really, really good to have YPs involved in certainly the things that I've done. But I think the next step and potentially what BSI and what we in standards development as committee managers should be thinking about for the next kind of, not overnight, but in, 2, 5, 10 years, is how we evolve the committee structure and think about how people are actually contributing to our committees. And I think I'm making a bit of a generalisation. Again, I'm talking to my own experience as a young professional as well, but when you're in your early stage career, you have, typically less autonomy over your own time, and you might, move jobs within your company or get promoted more quickly, relatively more quickly than you do later on. You might be moving jobs, you might be moving sectors. So, joining a BSI committee ongoing and working on something that's potentially 3 to 5 years, it can be a little bit disruptive. So I think something that we can think about is potentially ways to facilitate really high quality short-term engagement for young professionals, so that you could come in and work for a couple of months, have a report at the end of it, and then go back to your organisation and say, this is what I've done on this standard. So my call to action for that, and to kind of help us, start evolving in that direction, is be honest in your committees about what you want to contribute to, how you can contribute, and what kind of time you can give to it. Talk to your committee managers about it, and also give feedback. So yeah, get involved, be honest about it, and do give us feedback.
Thank you, Lockie. And that almost sounds like it's a call to action for BSI to.
It was from.
I'm sure Lockie can lead this initiative. So Franco, no pressure, but you are concluding our panel discussion with your call to action today. Over to you.
Amazing. So I just wanted to echo also what Maggie said earlier about reaching for the stars, and actually being the change that you want to see in the world. Because oftentimes we think, we see all these problems, we think we're powerless, we don't do anything, but I think we all underestimate the strength of our own voices and abilities to actually create change. So I'd strongly encourage you to actually dream big, so don't let it kind of be constrained by, how life has gone up until that point, or your background, or where you're from, or anything. Actually, dreaming with a sort of an alternative reality, and looking at creative ways where you can think about a future where things are different for the better. And if we use a bit of creativity and a bit of dreaming, I think we truly will have a better tomorrow.
That's lovely. Thank you, Franco. Lovely. Well, on that lovely kind of inspiring and empowering note, we are now putting the questions out to we are asking our audience to ask our panelists questions. So there should be some mics around, but please do raise your hands if you have a question for our panelists today. Yes. Do we have any mics ready to go? Oh, perfect.
Thank you, everyone, by the way, for all your really encouraging words. But I wanted to ask you, what is something that you think sets you apart from anyone else, or what's something that you're proud of that you've been able to, like a skill or an attribute that you have you've worked on that makes you proud, and why you think you're successful?
Who would like to take this question first?
When I tend to describe like my strengths, number one I always say is growth mindset. So growth mindset is when there's a problem or something happens, and then you see the positives in it, or you see the solutions in it, or kind of like, okay, what are you going to learn from this situation? Some people call it like seeing the gift in anything. Is it a bad thing? Is it a good thing? Who's to know? See it as a gift. You might not get something that you really wanted, but actually because you didn't get that, you got something even better. That's actually a gift, and that's actually like that growth mindset of understanding that, okay, that might not be for me, but something else is for me. And then being able to kind of just keep on going forward, whereas some people can let a negative, get them down, derail their whole course of life, do something really silly because they're not able to see beyond that. And I think that growth mindset has always been something that I've had since young. And then with that as well, resilience and perseverance, like that is life in general. Like life happens just randomly, you just don't know when or how, and it's just how you always pick yourself back up regardless of what happens. And again, if you look at not necessarily those around you, but just in general, you'll see that a lot of people give up really easily. In fact, I feel like 95% of people give up really easily. So if you're just part of that 5% that don't give up, you're already, standing out and being quite special. And then finally, I say integrity. That's at the heart of everything. Again, sadly, not everyone has integrity. But if your yes is yes, your no is no, and you're that person that shows up, that people can rely on because, you have integrity, then again, that will take you far because your character will speak for you. You don't have to go around. Someone will be saying, they'll be bringing up your names in rooms you're not in because your character speaks loudly. So I think those are the three things I would put it.
Thank you so much. Do we have any other questions in the room? Oh, there's another one here. Perfect. Oh, that's handy.
That's handy.
Hi, my name is Nalaya. So I actually work in DEI as well. And my question is, you mentioned the fact that specifically to do with the Young Professionals Network, there would be the tendency for people to be coming in thinking they're not the right person to speak on specific things. How would you say you've been able to, put measures in place to kind of nurture that confidence and kind of highlight the fact that they have fresh eyes is kind of the selling point and like a crucial part in why their voice is incredibly important within the process of creating standards?
That's such an excellent question. Thank you so much. Lockie, if I come to you first on that.
Yeah, I think this isn't kind of a formalised process, but I think something that starts to happen when you do have someone coming in and talking to their experience of using a standard, as I mentioned before. I think, well, first of all, I think I do just really want to highlight that when we say that to join a committee you should have relevant experience, that really does mean like relevant experience. It doesn't mean X number of decades of experience. If your relevant experience is that for 6 months you've been trying to implement this standard, that is so relevant because, there might be people sitting on the committee that developed the original version of that standard 25 years ago, but they're not the ones that have picked it up in 2024 to try and get an organisation to get certified to it. So I would keep that front of mind, and I think that comes out quite quickly in the discussions, I think, because standards, they're consensus-based, so every decision that's made when you're developing a standard comes out through discussion, and it really is just saying, well, have you considered this? This was, I'm an auditor and this is how clients seem to feedback about this, or I'm trying to implement it, this is what I've found. And I think that like first-hand viewpoint will come out quite quickly through the discussions, and it's quite clear that is really relevant. If a clause isn't working, it's not working. So if that answers the question.
Franco, would you like to share your insights as well?
So I found it very kind of encouraging to actually talk to the Young Professionals Network, and that really helped me get more opportunities to speak at BSI events, and they kind of guided me through the process, made sure that I knew sort of what I needed, and kind of help support me when doing it. And so, I found it a very positive process. This is also my second time speaking with the BSI, so strongly recommend it.
Conclusion to our evening today. I would just like to say a massive kind of congratulations and well done to Sarah Terrell, who's kind of put this program, the Young Professionals program together, and the event today. I encourage you all to speak to her and see how you can get involved and become part of the BSI Young Professionals Network as well. And with that, I am going to thank my wonderful panelists. Thank you so much for such an inspiring and empowering conversation. And head back over to Sarah. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you to all of the panellists and Emma for moderating that fantastic discussion. I feel like it could have gone on for another hour, but you'll probably all want to head off and have some drinks now and talk to each other, so I'll try and wrap up quickly. It was a fantastic session, and it was great to hear kind of from all your different perspectives, Lockie, you being a standards development manager, Franco, one of our YPs, and kind of Maggie and Kike kind of in your fields as well. And you know, it's good to hear from people who are at the forefront of young professionals engagement, both in standards and outside as well. So I certainly learnt a lot of that as well and felt very inspired. So I just wanted to take the opportunity as well, before we wrap up, just to kind of acknowledge and pick up on some of the points that you guys discussed, particularly around standards. And it's to acknowledge that within BSI, within the standards development process, we do have a long way to go. So part of what we're doing today, partnering with organisations like the BYP Network, having this event for people that are new to standards and want to find out more, and those that are already engaged, and create this community. This is what we're trying to do to change things and ensure that the right people are sitting on the right committees, the relevant people are there, and you know, making sure that standards are safe for the end user and the organisations that will be using them in the end. So I just wanted to make that really clear. And we are seeing progress. There is progress being made, but there is a lot more to be done. And hopefully by, you know, you guys being here today, hopefully you're inspired to potentially join us on making that journey even further to getting younger people involved in standards. So this evening's event and the implementation of our broader YP engagement strategy within my role as BSI's YP engagement manager is to create a world where standards work for everyone and achieve the intended outcomes for the end users. And as I said, that can only be done by ensuring that we're getting the widest possible diverse range of stakeholders coming together to shape standards. Because let's face it, without tackling this, standards cannot do good. So hopefully we can bring you on that journey. So it's been a packed evening so far. It's been a short evening, but a lot been going on. And I know it can be a lot to take in, so there's probably a lot that you want to kind of take away and have a think about. And with regards to getting involved in standards, we will sort of share resources after by email on how you can get involved. And if you have any questions, you can speak to us today, or you can email us after, and we can have further conversations about how you can get involved. And hopefully you're left feeling inspired, so whether that's through Maggie's amazing keynote presentation and some of our other panellists and some of their discussions today, hopefully you're left motivated to kind of delve a bit more into standards. It's been a huge collaborative effort, the event, so I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you to everyone who made it possible, our speakers and panellists, our speed dating session leads, the wonderful Barbican venue staff, Louise and her team at Lemon Zest, to make sure everything ran smoothly from the production point of view, our BSI staff and volunteers. But lastly, thank you to all of you in the room. Without you being here today, we wouldn't be putting on an event to kind of get you involved in standards. So thank you, and hopefully we can see you at future BSI events. But the biggest thanks of all is to, as I said, all of you for joining this evening. The fact that you're all here and being curious about something that you may not know much about is very inspiring, particularly for me in my role at BSI. So hopefully you continue to do that, not just at this event, but you know, touch base with us after and look at how you can get involved. And maybe one day if you join the network, you could be on the panel like today as well. In case you did miss it, as I said, do take the opportunity to scan the QR code on your badge and join the network. You just need to fill that form in. There's also a QR code on the screen now, which is our feedback form. So we're constantly looking at how we can improve this event, what the BSI Young Professionals Exchange will look like next year. So please take the time to scan the QR code. It will also be emailed to you afterwards if you don't get the opportunity to do that. But I do encourage you to fill that in and put as much feedback in as possible on how we can shape future events as well. As I said, this event is not just a one-off, and we're planning on holding a Young Professionals Exchange in autumn 2025, so we'll publish details on this in the new year, and hopefully we'll see some familiar faces from today. And again, I just wanted to say thank you to our partner, the BYP Network. You'll see some little leaflets on your chairs, a bit more about the organisation and their platform Javelin, which can help support careers. So just take the opportunity to kind of look at that and visit their website after as well, and see how maybe you can get involved in that. But yeah, next up is our drinks reception. The main aim of this is just to kind of get to know each other, have a talk to, you know, people that you don't know in the room. As a little icebreaker, we'd like you to go and connect with someone who has the same colour on your badge. So that will be the people that, you know, you went round the speed dating sessions with. So just go and reconnect with them and have a chat, and feel free to do the same to any other people as well that you haven't had the opportunity to speak to today. There's also going to be a table, we're calling it our reflections table for the day. So essentially it's got some post-it notes on it, and I just want you all to pop your kind of highlight or reflection from today, and your thoughts, because it'd be really great to collate that as well, looking at future events. And that's just another little icebreaker as well. The hashtag for the event is BSIYP Exchange, so please do share all your photos and thoughts from today on social media. There is like a photo wall that you can go and have some photos with as well. And also we have a number of excellent exhibitors this evening who you may have already had the chance to visit, but if not, please do take the opportunity to visit those exhibitors and find out a bit more about what they're doing as well, sort of from a careers perspective, and to attract young professionals. And I've mentioned the QR code as well for the feedback form, so make sure you scan that. But that's it for this session. So I hope you found it engaging, informative. I definitely have, and I feel like really inspired that there's so many young people and new faces here today that are not already involved in standards. So hopefully we can continue engaging in BSI and being part of the community. But yeah, for now, go and enjoy and have some drinks, and there'll be nibbles as well and food for you all. So thank you, everyone.